Hey everybody, welcome back to a new video on this channel, and today we have a look into compatibility date. So maybe you've recently been asked by command line, by prompts, for example after upgrading your Nuxt version, if you want to set a compatibility date. And hopefully you said yes. But maybe you've wondered, what is it? Why do I need it? And is it helpful? What problems does it solve? Luckily, all the answers right here, right now. Let's go. Alright, don't worry, you're still on the right channel. Yeah, we're not talking about astrology, we're talking about programming here. And the compatibility date is there to briefly summarize it, to pin behavior of providers, provider presets, provider settings. So you might wonder, okay, what does it actually mean? What are these providers and what's the idea behind it? Don't we have like versioning already to pin behavior? It's called semantic versioning. Like, I don't know, Nuxt 4 is coming out, it's a major version. Yep, that's correct, but let me explain what I mean. So usually when you deploy a Nuxt application, you use one of Nitro's deploy presets. And even if you don't set it, it might be auto-configured, auto-detected, or it's just a default Node server preset. Lovely, but what does it mean? So let's say we have a platform, let's take Netlify. So a platform where you can deploy to, then like a certain provider, can first of all have different presets. So the default one is Netlify, it's zero config, so it will be auto-detected. But you can also say, okay, I don't want to use Netlify functions, I want to use Netlify edge functions. So I use the edge preset, using Dino and having everything running in the edge. Or maybe I say, I want to use the on-demand builders from Netlify. So once again, Netlify specific features here and use that. So you can have 3 different presets. But besides the number of presets here, there's one other thing. So we have a long list of platforms you can deploy to with Nitro, luckily, right? But what if one of them changes the behavior? What if, let's say, render.com says, okay, things work a bit differently now. But wait, maybe you've never used render.com. Okay, then, well, but if they change something and maybe there is a breaking change, then Nitro has also to somehow deal with that. And maybe also implement a breaking change. And that would mean, because Nitro follows along semantic versioning, a major version. So like Nuxt 4 is coming now, but just with that one tiny breaking change, right? And even if you never use the platform, you would have to bump up a major version also to ensure you get all the fixes. Or, okay, then we could say we backport all the fixes to the major version before, and things become really messy. So that doesn't sound really feasible, right? Well, because it isn't. And that's where the compatibility date will help us. And it's very important to mention, it's not only about Nitro here, it's also about other packages that have providers. Think about Nuxt image, where we have lots of image providers that also could change their behavior. Or also unstorage with all the drivers, right? Same idea, more or less. And the big point is there, if the driver or the provider preset behavior changes, then ideally you only affect it if you opt into that by raising your compatibility date. So you can still opt into the Nitro bug fixes and features, and same for the other packages, by just updating your versions in your package JSON. But what if you say, okay, there's a platform, change some things, and maybe Nitro can even make sure it's still backwards compatible. So if you don't raise your compatibility date, the behavior is still the same. There's like a teeny tiny layer in between where Nitro ensures that things work as before and a breaking change might not occur. And that's more or less the idea. So if you set it to today's date and tomorrow there's a breaking change, then ideally, well, you can still use the same things the same way as you did before. But of course, it's not a trivial and easy. There's a little bit of work necessary. And the first thing started already with people being asked, hey, do you want to set your compatibility date? And once again, I hope you did, because otherwise there will be like a fallback date used, the 3rd of April or so, but it's always good to just set it and then maybe revisit. And also there's some tooling planned around that to make sure, okay, maybe there's an update and then the CLI will tell you, hey, look, there's an update for the preset that you've used in the past, or for the following presets. Then, yeah, easily you can see the differences and say, like, okay, do I want to opt in or not? And it can also be very nice for documentation. And when using compatibility date, of course, you can set as a whole string to say, okay, all the platforms, I want to log them all in, but you can also use an object to define it per platform. Let's say you use, for example, Cloudflare in one case, and then we say, okay, let's give to the current date in a YYYYMMDD format, which is the superior format. And maybe even for Versal, we want to use something different. This is especially great later on when also the providers from Nuxt image, Nuxt fonts, for example, and so on are integrated, because then we can say, okay, maybe it is, I don't know, the Cloudflare image provider that we use, so Cloudflare image, which isn't the case here yet, but might be in the future, we logged it in, but Cloudflare itself for breaking changes, for example, for workers, we want maybe an older date. And then we can go on and say, okay, what's with Google Fonts, for example? We want to have a different date here for implementation. So you also make sure that you can still upgrade parts of your application to what the new provider's behavior is, but still keep the rest of it and don't have to do a big bang migration for all these things. So that's also one thing under the hood that's already thought about. And funnily, you maybe know the compatibility date approach from certain APIs that are versioned like that, right? Like the GitHub API, the Shopify API, and even the Cloudflare workers are having the runtime version like that to also make sure they don't break working worker instances, but still allow people to use their newest features and changes. So the gist of it is really all behavior that's from Nuxt or a package like Nitro on storage, Nuxt image, and so on, that will always be changed through semantic versioning. So bug fixes, that's not about a compatibility date. That's always independent of it. But everything provider specific, everything platform specific, that's part of the compatibility date. So think of it as a versioning for these presets, in addition to what we have with Semver. And that helps a lot because then you can also decide to opt into all the bug fixes and improvements while still staying on the same platform specific things. Or the other way around, you say, okay, I have to support new platform stuff, but for that and that version, I still consider waiting a little bit. So you can more or less version them to some degree, at least, independent. But more importantly, we don't need to upgrade all the time for possible major versions for things we don't use. I mean, just imagine having like Nitro 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 because some presets change their behavior. On the other hand, same with Nuxt image. And it would be worse the other way too. Like, okay, the behavior changes. Maybe it's a bug fix, maybe it's consider a minor version for features, and you don't know about it. So with compatibility date, that's just a very nice way to express that with a constant and with a version. And to double down on that, let's hear Nuxt.js core team lead Daniel Rowe talking a little bit about compatibility date. Quickly wrapped up.
We're not going to be changing Nuxt behavior based on compatibility date. So again, it's the presets under the hood. And it's basically trying to figure out how to version stuff that you can't version.
Yep, that was him talking to Michael Me in Deja Vu episode 13, The Road to Nuxt 4. Definitely check out the episode to learn more about Daniel's Hackerman history, but also about compatibility date, a bit more compatibility version, how Nuxt 4 came across, and so on. Really worth to check out. Link in the show notes or in the description in this case, and also somewhere here as usual. And now I wonder, what do you think about it? Does it make sense to you? I think there's still some like information, education around necessary, and of course the tooling for that will come. So right now it doesn't do much, but it's still good to set it to be ready for the future. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about it. Does it make sense to you? Is it confusing to have like another versioning? Or do you think, yeah, cool, finally separate the platform things from the framework specific stuff? Drop the comments, I'll read and answer them, and see you soon. And don't forget to check out the latest Deja Vu episode where we talk with the guy that made this framework, Evan Yu, the creator of Vue.js, Vue, Rolldon, and so on, for 2 hours, well, split in 2 episodes, about 10 years of Vue and also the future. So definitely don't forget to check that out. And other than that, I hope to see you in the next video. Check the latest videos as well. Stay safe and happy hacking.